The chamber was full, but it wasn't alive. Not yet. Reporters whispered into microphones. Staffers shifted papers without purpose. Senators leaned back like this would be another day of nothing. Until he spoke, until Chief Justice John Roberts, wearing that black robe like it came with immunity, leaned forward and said the one sentence that stopped the room from breathing: "If you don't understand how this country works, maybe you should consider going back to Africa." The words landed like gunfire in velvet. Not shouted, not spit, just released with that same clinical chill he'd used for 20 years to strip away rights without raising his voice. Cameras didn't move. They jolted. Reporters froze mid-note, like even the press had to check if they'd actually heard it right. Jasmine Crockett didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't even tilt her head. She sat still, like the sentence hadn't hit her, like it had ricocheted and hit the Constitution instead. Roberts tried to clarify, "I mean, no offense, only that when a member of Congress repeatedly shows disdain for this court's role, perhaps they should reflect on their cultural origin." He said the word cultural, like it was code, like it was polite, like it made the blade less sharp. But it didn't. Jasmine sat forward, slow, measured, and said nothing. Because the first rule of cross-examination, let the defendant finish digging, and Roberts, he was still holding the shovel. Jasmine Crockett sat still for another second, letting the silence stretch, not because she needed time, but because he did. Because in that silence, every person in the chamber heard the echo of what he'd just said and realized it wasn't a gaffe. It was a reflex. So she leaned forward, folded her hands, and when she spoke, she didn't shake. "Let me see if I understand this," she said, calm, flat-cutting. "When I question the authority of a court that overturned 50 years of women's rights, when I criticize a bench that enabled billionaires to fund elections in the dark, when I point out that justice has become a privilege in this country, your answer is to suggest I don't belong in it." A pause. Sharp, quiet, undeniable. He shifted in his chair, and Jasmine's voice dropped even lower. "You didn't say go back to Congress. You didn't say go back to my district. You said go back to Africa. Let's call that what it is. You didn't like my tone, so you tried to erase my presence. You didn't like my argument, so you tried to reduce me to a passport. You didn't like the way I held this system accountable, so you told me to leave the country my ancestors bled into." Now the cameras were zooming in, not on her, but on him. Roberts stared down, gripping his notes like they were going to rewrite what just happened. But Jasmine kept going. "My roots in this country go deeper than yours. My people didn't sign documents. We were counted as cargo. We weren't invited. We were dragged. So don't ever in your robed life look me in the eye and tell me to go back anywhere. Because this country wasn't built by robes. It was built by wrists and chains." "Let's talk about systems," Jasmine said. "Because the minute you told me to go back to Africa, you made this about more than me. You made it about every black woman who's ever had to sit across from power and be told she doesn't understand it because she didn't build it. Let me be clear, we didn't build the court, we built the courthouse. We laid the bricks, cleaned the floors, held our tongues while you passed judgment in Latin. You wear a robe like it came from the sky, like it grants you the right to dismiss someone else's citizenship with a sentence. But I see it for what it is. It's not sacred. It's stitched by people who think tone is more dangerous than injustice. You've authored decisions that have erased voting rights, that have blessed voter ID laws, that have greenlit gerrymandering, while telling us this court is neutral. Neutral. Neutral doesn't tell a sitting congresswoman to pack her bags. Neutral doesn't flinch when it's caught, reflecting the very supremacy it was built to restrain. You told me to go back to Africa. But what you meant was, you want me to stop being a mirror because I reflect everything this court was supposed to rise above and never did. Now, Judge Roberts tried to speak. He adjusted his mic, cleared his throat, lifted his hands, that old motion of judicial calm. But Jasmine didn't pause it. You've ruled over everything but your own bias. And today, that robe didn't cover you. It exposed you. Let's talk about what this court sees and what it refuses to, Jasmine said. Because if I stood up here and said your court has upheld injustice, you'd call it inflammatory. But I'm not interested in your feelings. I'm interested in your file. Let's pull the record. Shelby v. Holder. Your court gutted the Voting Rights Act, claimed racism was over, then watched 43 states pass restrictions before the ink dried. Dobbs. Your court snatched bodily autonomy from millions of women, then acted surprised when clinics shut down in the poorest zip codes. Citizens United. Your court gave billionaires louder voices than teachers, and said money was speech, like we didn't know which voices would stay poor and silenced. And now, you tell me to go back to Africa because I pointed out that power without empathy is tyranny in a tuxedo. You didn't just insult me, you dragged this entire chamber back into history, then told us to smile like it's progress. Well, here's a headline for your legacy. Jasmine Crockett sat in front of the Supreme Court's highest seat and said what every textbook refuses to. This institution has protected power before it protected people. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then you finally know how it feels to be on the other side of your own ruling. You don't get to lecture us on order when your court silence has been louder than injustice for decades. Let's stop pretending. Jasmine said, that robes mean righteousness, that titles mean truth, that tenure makes you untouchable. Because the only reason this country still moves forward isn't because of you. It's because of the people you tried to talk over. It's the teachers working 2 jobs, still showing up with lesson plans. It's the nurses who held dying hands while your court debated whose life had value. It's the single mothers who navigate bureaucracies built to wear them down and still vote. And it's people like me, who weren't supposed to make it into this room but walked in anyway. And I'm not just here to be tolerated, I'm here to be heard. So when you tell me to go back to Africa, what you're really saying is that the only version of America you believe in is one that fits in your reflection. But America, it looks like me now. It sounds like me, it works like me, it calls you out like me. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should be the one doing some reflecting. Because I wasn't sent here to be silent. I was sent here because people who've been silenced for generations trusted me to speak. And I will not hand that voice over because your legacy can't handle its own echo. You think this is about you, Jasmine said, still calm, still composed, still holding the room without raising her voice. It's never just about one man. It's about what happens when entire institutions hide behind that one man and let him speak the quiet part out loud. You said, go back to Africa, but your court said, go back to pre-Roe, go back to Jim Crow, redistricting, go back to voter purges, go back to gerrymandered silence, go back to work without rights, go back to marriages we don't approve of. Your words were just the most honest thing this court has said in years, and maybe that's what scares people. Not that you said it, but that we all knew you believed it. That every time this bench ruled we saw the robe, but we heard the whisper. Go back, stay quiet, wait your turn. Well, guess what? The people whose voices you've buried under legalese and original intent, we're not waiting anymore. You want to talk about original intent? Let's talk about how the original Constitution counted people who looked like me as 3/5 of a person. Let's talk about how this court sat through segregation and called it separate but equal. Let's talk about how long it took for a black woman to sit on your side of the bench. And now you want to tell me that I should be grateful just to sit across from you. No, this isn't gratitude. This is accountability. And I hope you feel it. Not as shame, but as history knocking on your desk. Because today, the robe didn't protect you. It exposed you. Let me talk to America. Jasmine said, her eyes lifting not to the judge, not to the senators, but to the cameras. To the people watching from living rooms, from classrooms, from buses, from break rooms. I know what you heard today. You heard power. Forget it was being recorded. You heard a judge stop judging the case and start judging the person. You heard history, not from a textbook, but from a mouth that should have known better. And now you're wondering what to do with that. Because you've been told to believe in these institutions. Even when they fail you, you've been taught that decorum is more important than dignity. That staying silent is taking the high road. That if you just wait long enough, the system will fix itself. Well, I'm here to tell you, that silence, it's not noble, it's not strategic, it's not strength. It's how injustice survives. So no, I won't smile through it. I won't clap for the chair just because it's historic. I won't shrink because the robe is black and the bench is tall. Because I don't serve the court, I serve the people who pay for it, who pray over it, who show up to vote, even when this court makes that harder. Every cycle. To every young black girl watching this, to every voter who's been told your outrage is too loud, your tone is too sharp, your questions are too inconvenient. I'm here for you, and I'm not going anywhere. Let's get something straight, Jasmine said, turning back to the man who started it all. You are not justice. You wear the robe, you sit on the bench, you sign your name above decisions that shape generations. But you are not justice. Because real justice doesn't flinch when challenged, it doesn't silence when questioned, and it damn sure doesn't tell a black woman to go back to Africa because it couldn't handle her argument. You think your robe makes you untouchable? But all it really did today was cover your insecurity. You came here thinking I'd fold, that I'd be intimidated, that I'd be so grateful to breathe your courtroom air, that I wouldn't call out your racism in real time. You thought power was enough to erase shame. But the truth sticks to silence. The truth wraps itself around your robe. It echoes through that chamber long after you try to gavel it down. So here's what I want you to know. You can't send me back to Africa because I never left the fight. I was born into it, I was raised in it, and now I legislate from it. You said I don't understand the culture of this court. You're right. Because the culture of this court has too often meant quiet corruption, sanitized cruelty and precedent dressed up as principle. But what I do understand Is that this seat you sit in, this power you cling to? It doesn't make you bigger than your bias. It just makes your fall louder when the world finally hears it. And today, the world heard it. Let's stop pretending. Jasmine said, now standing not for show but because her words had outgrown her seat. Let's stop pretending this bench is neutral. Let's stop acting like your rulings float above history when every black voter in America knows they land heavy and always in the same direction. This court has blocked ballots, greenlit gerrymandering, crippled campaign finance rules, and gutted protections we bled for. You say you defend the Constitution, but I've read that document too, and nowhere in it does it say you get to decide who belongs in this country based on your comfort with their complexion. You think you're the last word. That just because you wear the robe, you're immune from being challenged, from being called out, from being exposed. I'm not here to undo your decisions. I'm here to read them back to you line by line, ruling by ruling. From every voting rights rollback to every corporate handout to every precedent you trampled and called it clarity. Because if today proves anything, it's that this court isn't broken by accident. It's working exactly as designed, and that design has never protected people who look like me, who sound like me, who sit here and dare to speak truth without permission. So go ahead. Keep your title, keep your robe, keep your illusions. But know this, history is already writing today down. Not as a moment of civility, but as a moment of reckoning. And you, Chief Justice, you made the record permanent. Jasmine closed the folder, not to leave, but to seal it. The statement was made, the silence had spoken, and the gavel, now just background noise. She didn't ask for an apology. She didn't need one, because today wasn't about changing Judge Roberts' mind. It was about letting the country see what power does when no one holds it accountable, and what happens when someone finally does. You said I don't understand this court, she said, looking up one last time, but maybe what scares you is that I understand it too well. That I know what's behind the decorum, the decisions, the dead language. That I know how power survives, not by crushing dissent but by dressing it up as order. But order without justice is just control, and control without conscience is exactly what we saw today. She stepped back, no smirk, no fist, no sound. Because when you've already won the moment, you don't need to perform. Let this be the record, she said. Voice, clear voice, unshaken. A black woman was told to go back to Africa on the record by the Chief Justice of the United States. And instead of shrinking, she stood. Instead of breaking, she built. And instead of walking out silent, she walked out as the reminder that the Constitution isn't a weapon, it's a promise. And when that promise is broken, we don't go back. We step forward every damn time.